Lin Dong gazed in shock at the reincarnation seal on Jiang Yin's smooth forehead, his eyes filled with disbelief. He could never have imagined that this little girl, whom he had known many years ago, would also be a reincarnator. What's wrong? Jiang Shui also noticed Lin Dong's expression and immediately asked. Lin Dong gently reached out to pat Jiang Yin's small head. A pure smile appeared on her face in response, clearly indicating that she had a deep impression of him. Even though they hadn't seen each other for many years, she still recognized him immediately. Has she always been like this over the years? Lin Dong asked. He had first met Yin around 7 or 8 years ago, when she was only about 12 or 13. But now, after all these years, she hadn't changed at all. Her appearance and the innocence in her eyes remained exactly the same as when they first met. Jiang Shui sighed and nodded with a wry smile. She looked at Jiang Yin and said, I'm not sure what's going on, but she truly hasn't changed in all these years. I also have a vague sense that there's something unusual about her. Lin Dong smiled at Yin before asking her to wait on the mountaintop. He then turned to Jiang Shui and said, She's a reincarnator. A reincarnator? Jiang Shui's face shifted slightly at the mention, clearly familiar with the rumors surrounding them. Lin Dong shook his head. It depends on her circumstances before she reincarnated. Logically speaking, if she was just an ordinary reincarnation expert who had failed once or twice in the reincarnation tribulation and was reborn, then her current memories would likely dominate. But if she was someone like the Ice Lord, a terrifying existence, then it's really hard to say who would ultimately control her body. Do you know what kind of person she was before her reincarnation? Jiang Shui asked. Lin Dong shook his head again. Generally speaking, as long as one survived the reincarnation tribulation and didn't have their essence spirit completely wiped out, they would have the ability to enter reincarnation. However, even after entering reincarnation, there's still the risk of having their spirit extinguished. Therefore, unless absolutely necessary, most peak experts would never choose this path. In ancient times, there were quite a few peak experts who reached such a level. With just the reincarnation seal, even Lin Dong couldn't discern much. However, if she was just someone who had passed through a couple of reincarnations, it might actually be a good thing for Yin. At this point, Lin Dong had arrived on the mountaintop and turned his gaze toward the black figure shrouded in demonic aura. It was evident that this figure had changed drastically from what it used to be. Back then, it had been nothing but bones. But now flesh had begun to grow, still thin, but human-shaped. What amazed Lin Dong the most was that the figure's eyes seemed to contain countless fragmented thoughts gathering within them. No matter how chaotic these thoughts were, they all had one thing in common: protection. Over the years, the fragmented wills drifting in this space have merged with his body. Now he's quite peculiar, and it's hard to say exactly what he is. Jiang Shui whispered. Lin Dong nodded slightly. It seemed that the great wilderness sect spirit was extremely strong. Even though these disciples had died thousands of years ago, their obsession to protect their sect still remained. The guardian before him seemed to be the embodiment of their collective will. Lin Dong sighed inwardly. This feeling was very much like when he was in the Tao sect. If the Tao sect were destroyed, the will of countless disciples would still linger, protecting their sect. Roar! At that moment, the black figure let out a roar of agony. His fists pounded heavily against his chest, and he kneeled on the ground, his eyes filled with a deep longing as he gazed into the void. Hey, big guy, what's wrong with you? Yin, noticing the figure's pain, urgently called out. A light began to shine from within her body, enveloping the black figure and purifying the demonic energy inside him. Lin Dong frowned at the sight of the guardian's suffering. He immediately clenched his palm, and an endless wave of thunder erupted from his hand, crackling with pure, violent power. Boom! The thunder condensed into a lightning sphere, which shot into the guardian's body. Moments later, the crackling sound of lightning filled the air as arcs of electricity spread from his body, purging all the demonic aura within him. As the demonic energy dissipated, the pain and confusion in the guardian's eyes gradually faded. Slowly, some fragmented consciousness began to gather in his eyes. Finally, he bowed deeply to Lin Dong. Lin Dong waved his sleeve to stop him, saying, "Years ago, You helped me remove the curse of the Nirvana pill. Although the Guardian had gained some intelligence, it was evidently shallow, and he likely couldn't remember the things he had done in the past. After all, he was now an existence formed by the accumulation of many wills, neither human nor corpse, and completely different from the undead state of the burnt heaven elder. Lin Dong understood the Guardian's condition, so he didn't say much. His slightly cold gaze shifted toward the earth below, which was seeping with traces of demonic aura. He sneered, "The demonic energy within him is strong, and it's not without roots. Merely relying on Inin's suppression won't be a long-term solution. Cutting the grass without removing the roots, if we want to solve this, we must eliminate what's hidden beneath." Lin Dong had obtained the devouring ancestral talisman here, which was the key to his current strength. Thus, the great wilderness sect had done him a great favor. Now, seeing that even the wills of the dead couldn't find peace, a cold and angry glint appeared in his heart. "You protect Inin," Lin Dong said to Jiang Shui, who nodded and quickly moved to Inin's side, pulling her away. "I'll see for myself what's causing the disturbance here." Lin Dong snorted coldly, and suddenly, dark thunderclouds began to gather in the sky. Countless bolts of lightning flickered, engulfing the entire space. Boom, boom. Endless bolts of lightning poured down, finally striking the ground below. The wild and pure energy surged, sweeping away the demonic aura that had filled the air with incredible speed. However, even facing this purge, there was no sign of movement from the earth below. "He really can hold out," Lin Dong sneered, flicking his finger. A massive thunder dragon, tens of thousands of feet long, roared as it descended and struck the ground with a violent crash. Boom! The entire space seemed to tremble, and the earth was torn open, revealing a vast, pitch-black chasm from which an aura of unspeakable evil surged. Lin Dong's expression turned frosty. He pointed again, and countless bolts of lightning turned and rained down into the depths of the earth. Whoosh! At last, there was a stir in the depths of the earth. Lin Dong saw a monstrous, evil demonic aura surging out like a demonic dragon. The energy spread out, easily repelling the violent lightning bolts. "Still holding out, huh? Then come out." Seeing the hidden alien demon finally react, Lin Dong's eyes flickered with lightning, and his palm rose. Above, the thunderclouds surged violently, with countless bolts of lightning gathering. Finally, the thunderclouds slowly dissipated, revealing a massive thunder sun, which unleashed a terrifying thunderous pulse that sent vibrations through the entire space. "Go!" Lin Dong's gaze was cold as he flicked his finger. The thunder sun fell, heading straight for the abyss below, its radiance flashing like it was scorching the very space it passed through. Humph! The thunder sun continued its violent descent, and from the bottom of the abyss, an icy voice echoed out. Then, countless demonic energies surged, forming a vast demonic energy disk, tens of thousands of feet wide. Boom! The thunder sun struck the demonic energy disk, and the two terrifying forces collided, causing the already massive chasm to rip open even further, leaving huge ravines that spread like a spider's web across the ground below. The dazzling lightning flickered wildly. Crack! Finally, cracks appeared on the demonic energy disk, which then exploded with a violent bang. Just as the disk shattered, a massive demonic hand reached out from the abyss and struck, dispersing the thunder sun. Boom! Boom! Although the thunder sun dispersed, the furious thunder energy still sent the demonic hand reeling, leaving it injured. The power of the thunder ancestral talisman was incredibly violent, and anyone trying to face it head-on would be at a disadvantage. "You actually obtained the thunder ancestral talisman?" The dark voice from the bottom of the abyss became colder, and more demonic energy surged out. Slowly, a figure emerged from the depths of the abyss. Lin Dong's gaze was fixed on the demonic energy as the figure gradually became clearer. Finally, the figure emerged from the dark mist, revealing a pale and handsome face, with a sinister smile creeping across it. The cold voice echoed, "The previous owner of the devouring ancestral talisman died at my hands. I never expected that today, The owners of both the Devouring and Thunder Ancestral Talismans would meet the same fate. Lin Dong gazed calmly at the demonic shadow stepping out of the swirling demonic aura. As he felt the overwhelming surge of sinister energy emanating from its body, his eyes narrowed slightly. "I wonder which of the demon prison's demon kings you might be?" Lin Dong asked indifferently. In the demon prison, only the 10 demon kings were entitled to bear the title of king. The question remained, who among them was this figure before him? The demonic shadow chuckled darkly at Lin Dong's words, a trace of surprise flickering in its eyes. "It seems you know quite a bit about the demon prison. It appears there's been some stir in the outside world over the years." Considering the time, I suppose it's about right," the shadow remarked. "I rank 9th among the demon kings of the demon prison." "The 9th king, then," Lin Dong murmured, showing little surprise. While the demonic aura radiating from this being was indeed overwhelming, its peak strength seemed to rival that of the 7th king. Moreover, its current state clearly indicated it had suffered devastating injuries in the past and had yet to fully recover. According to Lin Dong's assessment, the 9th king's current power was barely on par with a strong cultivator who had survived 2 reincarnation tribulations. In comparison, the 7th king he had fought previously was even more formidable. "So, it was you who led the demonic forces against the Great Wilderness Sect back then?" Lin Dong's voice carried a sharp edge. The 9th king smirked coldly at this. "Indeed, it was I who destroyed the Great Wilderness Sect. The previous master of the Devouring Ancestral Talisman also perished by my hand." Roar. The guardian atop the mountain peak suddenly let out a heart-wrenching roar upon hearing this, a sound infused with centuries-old hatred. Violent energy surged outward as the guardian prepared to charge at the 9th king. Jiang Shui, alarmed, quickly suppressed him with her primordial energy. Given his current strength, there was no way he could stand against the 9th king. A lingering remnant? And yet, you're not even worth the pity of the dead. The 9th king sneered as his gaze swept coldly over the guardian. Then, a venomous glint appeared in his eyes. "But I must admit, your Great Wilderness Sect did have some skill. While you were ultimately destroyed, you managed to annihilate all of my subordinates. That old ghost even sacrificed himself to seal me beneath this land for millennia." Lin Dong chuckled grimly. "It seems you've gradually broken free of the seal. By spreading your demonic aura, you intend to alert the demon prison to your location, don't you?" The 9th king's pupils contracted slightly, though he responded only with a faint, chilling laugh. "Unfortunately for you, your luck has run out," Lin Dong said with a hint of mockery in his eyes. The 9th king clearly hadn't anticipated that his demonic aura would be purified by Enin before it could spread. Now, she had even entered this space to suppress the demonic aura further, preventing him from fully recovering his strength. That wretched girl. The 9th king's eyes filled with fury as he turned to glare at the little girl on the mountain peak. His malevolent expression startled her, and she quickly hid behind Jiang Shui, peeking out with her large black eyes to steal a glance at him. "Judging by your current state, you haven't fully recovered from your injuries. This is as good an opportunity as any," Lin Dong remarked, a faint smile playing on his lips. Yet his pitch-black eyes glimmered with an intense killing intent. He knew well the terror of the demon prison. The demon kings were formidable foes. Though he found dealing with them extremely challenging, the 9th king was a rare exception. Having been sealed for over a millennium, his power had not returned to its peak. If Lin Dong could eliminate him here, it would be a significant blow to the demon prison. "You think you can kill me, boy? You're not worthy." The 9th king roared with derisive laughter. Though Lin Dong wielded the power of 2 ancestral talismans, he had yet to step into the reincarnation stage. Even in his weakened state, the 9th king was still far beyond the level of someone who had merely survived 1 reincarnation tribulation, let alone someone like Lin Dong. Lin Dong's expression turned icy as immense waves of primordial energy erupted from him, carrying a murderous intent that swept through the area. He was fully aware of the 9th king's status in the demon prison. If this demon escaped, it would undoubtedly become a major threat. Thus, no matter what, the 9th king had to die today. Boom! As Lin Dong's killing intent surged, the Ninth King's eyes also flashed with murderous light. He stomped on the ground, and demonic aura burst forth from beneath. Countless demonic corpses erupted from the earth, their grotesque forms rushing toward Lin Dong in a frenzy. Is the mighty Ninth King of the demon prison truly so dependent on pawns? Lin Dong sneered. With a wave of his hand, a massive black vortex, spanning thousands of feet, appeared. Its devouring force surged outward, swallowing the demonic corpses entirely. Bang! The Ninth King smirked coldly as he reached out and grasped the air. The countless demonic corpses melded together, their flesh dissolving to form a colossal black bone sword. The Ninth King gripped a black bone sword, his figure flickering like a specter as he appeared above Lin Dong. The bone sword radiated with an ominous demonic aura, tearing through space as it aimed to pierce viciously toward Lin Dong's skull. Swoosh! Just as the bone sword neared, a streak of thunderous light surged forth, colliding fiercely with the bone sword. Sparks flew as the impact distorted the surrounding space. Demonic corpse thunder. Despite his attack being blocked, the Ninth King remained unperturbed, letting out a cold laugh. The bone sword in his hand exploded into dozens of black thunderbolts that roared downward toward Lin Dong. Each bolt carried a sinister and nauseating aura, and even a reincarnation stage expert would suffer severe damage if tainted by such demonic energy. Get lost. Faced with the wicked demonic thunder, Lin Dong showed no fear. He clenched his hand, and an ancient rune formed from pure lightning appeared in his palm. With a single punch, he directly smashed into the descending thunderbolts. Boom, boom, boom. Pure and fierce thunderous energy erupted, obliterating the demonic thunder as if sunlight had melted snow. Not a trace of the sinister energy remained. Seeing the ineffectiveness of the demonic thunder, the Ninth King's gaze darkened slightly. He was well aware that the two ancestral talismans Lin Dong possessed were highly suppressive against demonic energy. Lin Dong, however, paid no heed to the Ninth King's reaction. His eyes focused sharply as his arm transformed into a liquid-like form, rapidly channeling the power of both ancestral talismans. Bang! His palm, now imbued with countless ancient runes, surged forward with a furious roar, striking directly at the Ninth King. The Ninth King's expression shifted as he saw Lin Dong's liquid-like arm. With a swift change in his hand seals, demonic light condensed over his body, materializing into a menacing set of armor. Clang! The palm strike, carrying the power of the two ancestral talismans, landed heavily on the demonic armor, producing a low, reverberating sound. The attack, capable of annihilating an alien demon king instantly, only left a faint mark on the armor. The demon emperor armor? Lin Dong's cold voice rang out as he felt the recoil from his strike and recognized the distinctive armor on the Ninth King. Not bad, kid. You do have some knowledge, the Ninth King sneered. Lin Dong frowned. His previous encounter with the Seventh King had already demonstrated the formidable nature of this demon emperor armor, a gift from the alien demon emperor himself. It was this armor that allowed these adversaries to survive countless deadly encounters. Relying on the armor's protection, the Ninth King's ferocity reignited as he unleashed a torrent of demonic energy at Lin Dong. In response, Lin Dong mustered his primordial energy, spiritual power, and the strength of the two ancestral talismans to hold his ground. Yet, the Ninth King was unable to gain a decisive advantage. Under normal circumstances, Lin Dong's limit would have been contending with a single reincarnation tribulation expert. Against someone like the Seventh King, who had survived 2 tribulations and wielded the Demon Emperor armor, he would have been utterly outmatched. However, the Ninth King's injuries had left him weakened, enabling Lin Dong to fight him to a stalemate. Above the skies, their clashing figures created shockwaves that distorted space, the collision of demonic energy and primordial energy creating a terrifying spectacle. Jiang Shui watched the battle from below, her face tense. She felt a sense of relief that Lin Dong had arrived in time. Otherwise, who could possibly have stopped the Ninth King here? Huh, you've got some skill, kid, but you can't harm me. Dragging this out, what can you do to me? If you let me go now, I'll leave peacefully, and this place will remain unharmed. As for our grudge, we can settle it another day. What do you say?" The Ninth King laughed after another exchange of blows. "Do you think I'm foolish enough to let a tiger return to its mountain?" Lin Dong sneered. If the Ninth King escaped, he would become a future menace. "Fine. Let's see who can outlast the other." The Ninth King's eyes gleamed with malice as he let out a sharp laugh. Hovering in the sky, Lin Dong glared coldly at the Ninth King, his eyes flickering with determination. Given his current strength, severely injuring the Ninth King might only be possible through the use of the Thunder Bow and Black Arrow. However, such an attack would consume an immense amount of energy. If it failed to eliminate the Ninth King, the situation could become even more precarious. No time to hesitate. Lin Dong, a man of decisive action, resolved himself. With a thought in his mind, Lin Dong no longer hesitated. His hand clenched, and a brilliant thunderous light gathered, forming a thunder bow. He then pulled the bowstring with his finger, and a long black arrow quietly materialized. In his eyes, only the presence of the Ninth King remained. Deep within his pupils, killing intent surged violently. Today, this beast would die. An overwhelming killing intent spread from his body, a resolute will that could not be changed. As Lin Dong's killing intent toward the Ninth King reached its peak, the guardian atop the mountain seemed to sense it, immediately letting out a howl. Within that cry, there seemed to be an endless gratitude. Buzz, buzz. As the guardian roared, countless beams of light suddenly shot out from its body, hanging in the sky. Lin Dong scanned them with his gaze, and his pupils slightly contracted. At the forefront of the light, there was an ancient figure sitting cross-legged. Dressed in a black robe, his eyes were as dark as ink. It was none other than the black-eyed elder, who had once passed the devouring ancestral talisman to Lin Dong. Lin Dong stood dazed for a moment, recognizing the figure. He knew that this was the man from whom he had received the devouring ancestral talisman years ago. He was also the previous possessor of the talisman. "Senior," Lin Dong muttered. He swept his gaze around and saw that countless figures were seated in the light. His heart suddenly understood. These were the wills of the many powerful members of the Great Wilderness Sect, whose spirits still lingered in this space. Even after death, they stubbornly continued to guard their sect. "You old devil." The Ninth King, seeing this scene, changed his expression drastically and glared hatefully at the black-eyed elder. "You sealed me for over 1,000 years, thinking that would erase me? Ha ha ha, well, look at this. After 1,000 years, I still survive, while you have turned to ashes. Who has truly won between us?" The black-eyed elder, with a faint smile on his aged face, stood up and slowly bowed toward Lin Dong. Around him, the countless lights also bent in unison. "We are willing to follow you to slay the demons." An ancient voice seemed to echo from the sky. Then, their bodies erupted in a brilliant light, and within the radiating beams, a powerful reincarnation fluctuation spread across the heavens. In Lin Dong's dark pupils, a faint glow rippled as the black arrow trembled slightly. The intense reincarnation fluctuation surrounding it made the arrow glow with dazzling light. A terrifying aura began to slowly emanate, causing the entire space to tremble violently. Lin Dong was moved by the change in the black arrow. He could sense that this arrow was imbued with the final will of the many powerful beings of the Great Wilderness Sect. Their intent was pure and strong. They wished to see the Ninth King, who had destroyed their sect, perish. To think that after 1,000 years, their will is still so strong. Lin Dong sighed softly, a cold light gathering in his dark eyes. His hand gripped the black arrow, locking onto the increasingly discolored Ninth King. "Senior, you once granted me the devouring talisman. Today, I will avenge the Great Wilderness Sect." Lin Dong's face grew colder, and as the space around him fluctuated, a mysterious force tore through the air, enveloping the black arrow. The chaotic energy instantly suppressed the reincarnation fluctuation, hiding it from view. The black arrow, simple and unremarkable. But under its lock, the Ninth King's body trembled. In his demonic eyes, a rare trace of fear appeared. At that moment, he truly sensed the taste of death. This intense aura of death had not even appeared when facing the black-eyed elder's last-ditch effort 1,000 years ago. Kid, are you really going to fight me to the death? Why don't we take a step back? The Ninth King roared. Lin Dong's eyes were indifferent as he stared at him. Then his lips moved, clearly articulating two cold words, fool. The Ninth King froze for a moment, his face turning vicious. You brat, you think you can kill me like this? You have no idea what you're up against. As his roar echoed through the air, a massive wave of demonic energy surged from his body. His demon emperor armor began to squirm violently, and strange symbols emerged across its surface. The Ninth King's body rapidly expanded, transforming into a towering demon. The demonic aura he emitted blotted out the sky. Lin Dong, staring at the Ninth King whose demonic energy had reached its peak, felt his killing intent grow even stronger. The space before the long arrow began to slowly shatter at this moment. Though the arrow had yet to be released, it seemed as if even the heavens and earth were struggling to bear the terrifying pressure it carried. Go! Lin Dong murmured softly in his heart. Then, the fingers tightly gripping the bowstring, smeared with a trace of blood, suddenly loosened. Whoosh! A piercing sound echoed across the world. The black arrow seemed to tear through the very fabric of space, and in the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of the Ninth King. Roar! The Ninth King let out a low growl, and the overwhelming demonic aura surged forward, transforming into a series of ferocious demonic portals in front of him. Bang! 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 However, that powerful defense crumbled under the black light, disintegrating within moments. Before the Ninth King could react, the black arrow had already appeared in his constricted pupils and struck his body fiercely. Clang! Faintly, the sound of metal clashing could be heard. The demon emperor armor he wore cracked open with numerous fissures. The black arrow mercilessly pierced through the armor, then through the Ninth King's body. Boom! The Ninth King's figure was sent flying tens of thousands of feet, his demon emperor armor shattering continuously along the way. A miserable and incredulous scream erupted from his mouth. When the Ninth King finally hit the ground, his body was drenched in black blood. He slowly lowered his gaze to the shattered demon emperor armor, disbelief still evident on his face. The very thing that even the black-eyed elder couldn't achieve back then, Lin Dong had just broken it with a single arrow. The demon emperor armor, a gift bestowed by their supreme emperor, had been shattered? How is this possible? The Ninth King muttered to himself, but before he could react further, his eyes suddenly turned fierce. Yet, as soon as his body stirred, a horrific scream erupted from him, as countless rays of light shot out from within. Bang! 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 As the light burst forth, it seemed like thunder exploded within him. With each thunderclap, the Ninth King's face grew paler, and his aura rapidly weakened. Bang! With the final, deafening explosion, the Ninth King's body detonated, scattering demonic blood across the ground, turning it thick and malevolent. As the demonic blood soaked into the earth, a faint demonic glow seemed intent on burrowing underground. I told you today, I will end you. Lin Dong's cold voice rang out. With a wave of his hand, gentle white light shot forth, transforming into a barrier that enveloped the faint, black glow. Sizzle! As the white light enclosed the black glow, a mist erupted, accompanied by pitiful screams. When the white light finally receded, a palm-sized demonic shadow floated within. The terrified face clearly belonged to the Ninth King, though now, all his former might and ferocity had vanished. Lin Dong gazed at the Ninth King, now wrapped in white light, and couldn't help but sigh. The vitality of these alien demons was truly terrifying. Even after enduring such a fearsome attack, they still managed to survive. Although the Ninth King was severely injured and his demonic body had been destroyed, if allowed to escape, he would likely recover within a century. No wonder that even in the past, when the 8 ancient lords fought against them, they couldn't kill many of the high-ranking members of the demon prison. These beings were like centipedes, hard to kill entirely. But now, The ninth king had finally fallen into Lin Dong's hands, partly thanks to the will of the many ancestors from the great wilderness sect lingering in this space. Ending you here will surely reduce some of the burden in the great battle ahead, Lin Dong said softly, smiling faintly at the ninth king trapped within the white light. He then extended both hands, and the Thunder Ancestral Talisman and Devouring Ancestral Talisman materialized, one on each side, enclosing the ninth king. Still not enough, Lin Dong mused, then summoned the Great Wilderness Monument, which floated above, followed by the Shintian Palace placed beneath the ninth king. You. Seeing this, the ninth king's face finally changed drastically. These 4 relics were highly effective against alien demons. Despite his strong vitality, the ninth king now sensed an ominous doom. Lin Dong ignored his panic. He clenched his hand again, and the ancestral stone appeared, flying into the white light. The 5 supreme relics glowed faintly, slowly linking together as the white light began to shrink. No. The white light grew smaller and smaller, along with the ninth king of the demon prison shrinking within it. His harrowing screams echoed out, yet facing the purifying power of the 5 supreme divine artifacts, even his unparalleled strength was futile. His death was inevitable. Lin Dong, however, ignored his screams entirely. With his eyes gently closed, he maintained his composure. The white light eventually shrank to the size of a grain of rice before exploding with a resounding bang. A ripple of indescribable force spread outward, tearing the ground below into a chaotic mess with waves of soil soaring 100 feet high. Only then did Lin Dong open his eyes. Gazing at the dispersing white light, his pale face revealed a relieved smile. The ninth king of the demon prison was now utterly annihilated. It wasn't easy. With a wave of his sleeve, Lin Dong absorbed the 5 divine artifacts into his body. The upper echelon of the demon prison was indeed terrifying. Even in their diminished state, it had taken an immense effort to completely eradicate them. Senior, the demon has been vanquished. I believe your long-held wishes are now fulfilled, Lin Dong said softly, looking up at the glowing figures suspended in the sky, his gaze settling on the black-eyed elder. In response, all the figures in the sky bowed deeply toward Lin Dong. Gratitude and relief radiated from the elder's face. Thank you, young friend. Your great kindness is beyond words. Please accept this token of our gratitude. As the elder spoke, their forms began to dissipate, leaving behind radiant light particles that floated down toward Lin Dong. Extending his hand to touch the glowing particles, Lin Dong's body trembled slightly as an expression of delight emerged in his eyes. This was reincarnation in sight? The dazzling points of light drifted through the air, making the entire world seem dreamlike. The peculiar waves of reincarnation emanating from them carried an almost mesmerizing allure. Lin Dong sat cross-legged in the sky, gazing at the cascading light. Deep within his dark eyes, excitement flickered. He had already touched upon the path of reincarnation, but there was still a considerable gap before breaking through to the reincarnation stage. This opportunity could help bridge that gap significantly. These reincarnation insights were the legacy of countless predecessors from the Great Wilderness Sect. Even after death, they had remained to protect their sect. Now, with the slayer of their sect finally defeated, they were free of their obsessions. As their thoughts dispersed, they left behind these precious insights for posterity. Miss Jiang Shui, this is also a fortuitous encounter for you. Don't miss it, Lin Dong said with a smile, glancing toward Jiang Shui on the mountain peak. Jiang Shui nodded gently in acknowledgement, patting Yinin's little head before sitting cross-legged herself. She understood just how important these reincarnation insights were for her cultivation. Meanwhile, Yinin sat idly on a rock, propping her small face on her hands and swinging her snow-white legs back and forth, looking bored. The reincarnation ripples swirled past her, yet she seemed utterly unaffected. However, deep within her wide, innocent eyes, a peculiar brilliance faintly flickered. Lin Dong continued to sit in midair, his body now resembling a black hole. The colorful light points from the sky surged toward him, flowing endlessly into his body. As the vast reincarnation energy poured into him, a faint and mysterious sensation began to ripple through Lin Dong's heart. His originally lucid consciousness gradually blurred, as though on the verge of falling into an indescribable realm. Yet, he was unable to fully enter, leaving him immersed in the sensation and gradually comprehending its mysteries. In a pitch-black void devoid of light, an endless tide of evil energy flowed. This malice was foreign to the world. At the center of the darkness, a crimson lamp stood, its wick resembling bone. The slow burning of its flame exuded boundless demonic aura. Suddenly, one of the crimson lamps flickered. Its sinister flame dimmed before extinguishing completely. Buzz. As the lamp went out, faint ripples emanated from the depths of the darkness. Shadows began to materialize faintly within the void. The ninth has been destroyed. A hoarse voice spoke slowly from within the darkness. Dead? Ha, the unlucky fool. Years ago, he went after the last controller of the devouring ancestral talisman and vanished. We thought he was merely sealed, given his blood lamp still burned. How could he suddenly perish? Another voice, soft yet sinister, echoed. He must have encountered a formidable opponent. The ninth also had the demon emperor armor. It shouldn't have been easy to eliminate him. We've been searching for his location all these years but found no trace. It seems the controller of the devouring ancestral talisman back then had considerable ability. Perhaps it's the work of those ancient lords. I sensed the presence of the Space Lord in the demon realm recently, but we only exchanged brief blows before retreating. That one seems to have fully regained their strength. Be cautious in your actions. Not long ago, we were almost detected by the Thunder Lord. The Thunder Lord? What is there to fear? If he dares to come, we'll simply deal with him first. If the Thunder Lord falls, the other ancient lords will be forced to emerge. We're not yet fully prepared, and if we clash, it may lead to the same outcome as before. What's our next move? The time is nearly ripe. We should begin our plan. After waiting millennia, it's hard not to feel eager. Yes, prepare yourselves. The evil aura in the darkness gradually faded away, and those blurry figures silently dispersed. In the stillness that followed, it felt as though a storm, vast enough to engulf the heavens and earth, was slowly brewing. When Lin Dong emerged from that mysterious state, 10 days had already passed. He opened his still somewhat hazy eyes and gazed at the familiar world before him. He exhaled deeply. After a brief moment of silence, he took a deep breath, his eyes gradually clearing. Stretching out his long hand, he began to gather his primordial energy, and he could sense the intense waves of reincarnation energy stirring within. The intensity of these waves was much stronger than before. However, it still hadn't reached the level of the reincarnation stage. Just a little more, Lin Dong muttered to himself. He could feel that he was now at the peak of the revolution stage, almost within reach of the reincarnation stage, only a half step away. Once that step was taken, he would truly be a reincarnation powerhouse. However, that step was not easy to cross. Lin Dong smiled faintly, not feeling disappointed. Although he was fortunate, if entering the reincarnation stage were that simple, countless brilliant talents would have been unable to achieve it in their lifetime. He had a feeling that, perhaps soon, he would be able to take that final step. You're awake? A soft voice came from not far away. Lin Dong raised his head and saw Jiang Shui smiling as she looked at him. Her gaze had grown much deeper, clearly indicating she had also gained significant benefits. Lin Dong nodded slightly and glanced at the guardian atop the mountain. The guardian was still sitting there dazed, his eyes clouded with confusion, though there was also a sense of relief, as if his great vengeance had been avenged. As your cultivation progresses, its spiritual intelligence should gradually recover. By the way, I must thank you on behalf of the Great Wilderness Sect. I've inherited the sect's legacy, so I'm grateful to you on their behalf, Jiang Shui said softly. Lin Dong shook his head. The Great Wilderness Sect and I are tied by Unqing. It was only right to do so. Moreover, if I let the ninth Demon King escape, it would become a huge trouble for me in the future, so there's no need for thanks. Jiang Shui smiled slightly and extended her hand. A piece of black light appeared in her palm, within which was a broken set of armor. A faint, evil aura emanated from it. Lin Dong's eyes narrowed when he saw it. This was undoubtedly the Demon Emperor armor. The 9th Demon King was killed by you, so this should be your spoils of war. I'm sure no one else can benefit from it, Jiang Shui said. The demonic aura on the armor was too heavy. To the alien demons, it was a divine artifact, but it had no effect on them. Heh, this is a good item. Though the demonic energy is intense, if it's refined in the Xintian Palace, I think that energy should fully restore the Great Wilderness Monument. Yan's excited voice rang out. Lin Dong raised an eyebrow. Fully restore the Great Wilderness Monument? If the Dark Sacred Scythe was fully restored, it would be comparable to a peak powerhouse who had survived a reincarnation tribulation, and if the third-ranked Great Wilderness Monument was restored, how strong would it be? Perhaps it could contend with a peak powerhouse who had survived 2 reincarnation tribulations? As this thought crossed his mind, Lin Dong felt a surge of enthusiasm rise within him. Without hesitation, he reached out, took the broken Demon Emperor armor, and tossed it into the Xintian Palace, where it would gradually be refined. Let's head out first. With the issue of the Great Wilderness Monument solved, Lin Dong looked around and spoke. Jiang Shui nodded, summoning Yin with a wave of her hand. The little girl ran over joyfully. Since she had previously been required to stay behind to suppress the demonic energy here, Jiang Shui had left her alone in this place. Now that she could leave, the girl was naturally thrilled. Lin Dong smiled when he saw this. With a flick of his sleeve, the space around them twisted, and when they regained their senses, they found themselves outside the Great Wilderness Monument. Outside, Zhang Lei and the others had been waiting. When they saw Lin Dong and the others come out, and saw Jiang Shui smiling, they immediately breathed a sigh of relief, clearly relieved that the most troubling issue had been resolved. Uncle Zhang Lei, now that the problem has been dealt with, I'll return to the imperial capital. If you need any further help, feel free to come find me, Lin Dong said with a smile. He had originally expected the matter to be resolved quickly, but had not anticipated that it would take another 10 days. Now that everything was resolved, he could not afford to stay any longer. Zhang Lei was taken aback when he heard Lin Dong was leaving. He then glanced at Jiang Shui. You've truly helped us this time, Jiang Shui said with a faint smile, but her gaze lingered on Lin Dong, deep and meaningful. Lin Dong smiled and reached out to pat Yin's little head. If anything happens to Yin in the future, just come find me. Lin Dong gave her a gentle smile, chatted for a while longer, and then swiftly dashed off, disappearing into the horizon. Jiang Shui stopped in her tracks, her gaze fixed on the figure fading in the distance. The smile on her face slowly faded, replaced by a faint sigh, tinged with bitterness. If you like him, why not keep him around? Zhang Lei said helplessly. This girl, so stubborn. She never once expressed her feelings from the start to the end. I do like him, Jiang Shui replied with a soft smile, but this feeling, I'd rather bear it alone. Besides, it's not like we won't have a chance to meet again in the future. She waved her hand lightly, turning to leave with a carefree air.